stop mid-broadcast on a rainy day in Miami to point at a 21-year-old Filipina and say, quietly, almost as an afterthought, that she can already do it? Because on the surface, this looks like a standard broadcast moment. Analyst previews a tournament. Analyst says nice things about a rising player. Filipino fans clip it. Everybody moves on. And if you stop reading the segment at that level, you're going to miss what actually happened, which is that a coach whose entire resume is built around one specific stylistic tradition of tennis, the tradition of the aggressive, first strike, redirect the ball baseliner, put Alex Eala inside that tradition on live television. He didn't say it that loudly, he didn't dress it up, he just said it, and nobody in the studio pushed back because on some level everybody knew he was right. The question isn't whether Annacone praised her. He did. The question is what he was actually praising and why. 5 months later, that praise is starting to look less like a compliment and more like a diagnosis. That's the story. If you care about where Alex Eala's career is going next, hit subscribe now because this channel is going to be sitting with her through the US Open and the Asian swing. And this is the frame you're going to want. Now quickly, because most of you know this, and the parts you don't know will layer in as we go. Alex Eala is 21 years old. She is the first Filipina to break into the WTA top 20, currently ranked world number 20, which is a career high. In 2026 alone, she has a 37-19 record on tour. She has one WTA singles title to her name, and it is not a modest one. It's the Mubadala DC Open, a WTA 500, and she won it 2 weeks ago by beating Naomi Osaka, then Alina Svitolina, and then world number 3, Jessica Pegula in the final. That's the resume. That's the shape of the year. What matters for the reframe is a smaller detail hidden in there. That in early March of this year, when Paul Annacone said her name on television, she was ranked 32 in the world and had exactly 0 WTA titles and had never beaten a top 3 player in her life. Hold on to that, because in about 10 minutes, we're going to come back to it, and it's going to matter differently. Here are the pieces of the segment that don't add up under the obvious explanation. Take them one at a time. First, and this is the paradox that almost nobody flags, Paul Annacone opened his comments about Alex Eala by praising her manners. He said her smile lights up a room. He said that when she beat Iga Swiatek at Miami last year, she did it with a lot of grace and humility. Now, elite coaches do not usually go on national television to praise etiquette. Annacone has coached players who won 22 combined Grand Slams. His time is expensive. His words in a TC Live segment are, in a very real sense, a scarce broadcast resource. So why did he burn the opening seconds of an Indian Wells preview talking about how well-mannered she was on a court she had left almost 18 months earlier? Hold that question. We come back to it. Second paradox. In the same breath, Annacone did something that is genuinely unusual for a broadcaster in a preview segment. He named her specific ranking. He said, and I'm quoting directly from the transcript that Tennis Head reproduced from the broadcast, obviously she wants to get better than where she is now at 32 in the world. Broadcasters previewing tournaments almost never do this. They round. They say she's just outside the top 30 or she's climbing. Annacone gave the number, and then immediately after giving the number, he pivoted into a piece of technical vocabulary. He said she has a lot of good hand-eye coordination and the ability to take the ball early and redirect. That's an oddly specific compliment. It's the kind of thing a coach says to another coach, not the kind of thing an analyst says to a lay audience on a preview show. So why did he choose that vocabulary on that broadcast for that player? Hold that one too. It's the one that matters most. Third paradox, and this is the one that seems to belong to a different conversation entirely. Annacone closed the segment by talking about her fans. Specifically, he said, I'm quoting again, "The fan stuff is always fun to me, because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get to the top. That's not a coaching observation. That's a commercial observation. That's a comment about audience, about market, about the shape of a career off the court. What is a former Federer coach, someone whose professional history is defined entirely by tennis played inside the white lines, doing framing a 21-year-old's fan base as an asset on live television in the same 45 seconds where he also talked about her forehand? Hold that. Because in the reveal, all three of these paradoxes are going to collapse into one sentence, and the sentence is going to be simpler than you think. Here's what I think is actually going on, and I want to say up front, this is a reading of a public broadcast based on the words Annacone chose and the resume he brings to those words. It is not something he sat down and told me. It's something the transcript rewards you for noticing. You've been assuming this whole time that Paul Annacone praised Alex Eala because she's a promising young player and he happened to like her game. That's the frame everybody has been sharing this clip inside. Federer's coach said nice things. Great. Feel good. Move on. But that's not what happened on that broadcast. What actually happened is that in about 45 seconds of live television, Paul Annacone diagnosed, very quietly in the specific vocabulary of a coach, the two exact assets that make Alex Eala structurally valuable to the WTA right now. One of them is technical, one of them is commercial, and he named them in that order because that's the order they matter in. And because he is a man who has spent his adult life thinking about how promising young players either become great players or don't. That's the reframe. Not Annacone praised her, Annacone diagnosed her. The grace and humility opener wasn't etiquette talk. It was Annacone locating her temperamentally, telling the audience she has the psychological equipment to survive the noise that comes with being the first Filipina at a WTA level. The take the ball early comment wasn't a generic compliment. It was Annacone placing her in the technical lineage he knows better than almost anyone alive as a player whose game is built around the one skill that has produced Grand Slam champions in his own coaching career. And the small country's fan base line at the end wasn't a throwaway. It was Annacone telling the WTA on the WTA's own broadcast partner that this player is a business asset as well as a competitive one. 3 sentences, 3 assets. One diagnosis, and the reason it took most viewers a second listen to hear it is that Annacone is not a loud broadcaster. He talks the way coaches talk, which brings us to the proofs. Take a breath here. I want to be honest, none of what I just said would matter if the diagnosis hadn't held up. Coaches say things on television every week. Broadcasters preview tournaments. Praise gets clipped, circulated, forgotten. What separates this segment from the ordinary version of itself is what has happened in the 5 months since, and whether the specific things Annacone named have actually shown up on the court. So let's go through the proofs. Proof number 1 is the number. When Annacone said Alex Eala's name on Tennis Channel Live, she was ranked 32nd in the world. As of this week, per the official WTA rankings, she is ranked 20th. She is the first Filipina to enter the WTA top 20. In the intervening months, she has beaten Donna Vekic, Jasmine Paolini, Elena Gabriela Rus, Naomi Osaka, Elina Svitolina, and Jessica Pegula. That's a former Slam finalist, 2 former top 5 players, a Grand Slam champion, and the current world number 3. Annacone had said on air that he liked watching her play and continue to progress. Or progress is a soft word. 12 ranking places, a WTA 500 title, and a win over a top 3 player in 5 months is not soft progress. That's the trajectory the diagnosis predicted, cashing in on schedule. Proof number 2 is the vocabulary, and this is the one you have to sit with because it's easy to skate past. When Annacone said Alex Eala has the ability to take the ball early and redirect, he was not reaching for the nearest available compliment. That phrase is a category. In coaching language, taking the ball early means striking it on the rise before the ball reaches the top of its bounce, which compresses the time your opponent has to recover. Redirecting means changing the direction of a ball that was hit cross-court into a down-the-line reply, or vice versa, which forces your opponent to move against their own momentum. Those two skills together form the technical DNA of first strike tennis. It is the skill Pete Sampras used to shorten points on his own serve. It is the skill Roger Federer used to build the most famous inside-out forehand in the sport's history. And Paul Annacone spent, depending on how you count, somewhere around 15 years of his professional life trying to sharpen those exact instincts in those two exact players. When a man with that biography says on live television that a 21-year-old Filipina already has those instincts, he is not paying her a compliment. He is placing her in the language of his own tradition. It's the difference between a chef saying your soup tastes nice and a chef naming correctly the 3 ingredients you used. That's a diagnosis. Kim Clijsters earlier in the year had said something in a similar register, praising Eala's belief and poise after her Abu Dhabi and Dubai runs per tennis head. The pattern matters. Elite voices are describing Alex Eala in the language of how she plays, not in the language of where she's from or who she reminds them of or how many followers she has, how she plays. That's what changes when a career changes. Let that sit for a second because it's the hinge of the whole video. Then proof number 3, which is the one that turns the analysis into something you can actually watch happen. Proof number 3 is the third set of the DC Open final 10 days ago. Alex Eala walked out onto center court in Washington against Jessica Pegula, the same Jessica Pegula who beat her 7-6, 5-7, 6-3 in the Miami semifinal last year, the match Annacone had specifically referenced on TC Live. Pegula won the first set 6-4. That's a match Annacone's Alex Eala from March would have almost certainly lost. Pegula is a specific kind of opponent. She is not a big hitter. She is an absorber. She takes your pace and gives it back to you with interest, and she almost never makes a physical error. If you want to beat her, you have to give her a shot she cannot get to. And in the second set, something started to shift. Eala won at 6-4, and in the third set, on the biggest stage of her career against the world number 3, she won 6 games in a row, 6-0, a bagel, against a top 3 player in a final. The scoreline is 4-6, 6-4, 6-0. It is now the first WTA 500 title in Philippine tennis history. Now here is what the tape shows, and I want to be careful. This is my read, not Annacone's. But if you go back and watch that third set with his TC Live comment in your ear, what you will see is Alex Eala doing exactly the thing he named. She is taking Pegula's ball on the rise. She is redirecting cross-court balls down the line before Pegula can reset. She is compressing Pegula's recovery time point after point until Pegula, one of the best absorbers in the sport, is absorbing shots she does not have time to reach. That's not a coincidence. That is a specific technical skill applied at a specific competitive altitude, producing a specific result. Paul Annacone had said on national television that Alex Eala had that skill and could get better with it. 5 months later, in front of a home crowd of Filipino fans in Washington, D.C., the small country passion he'd also flagged, she used it to win her first title. The diagnosis was correct. Now, I have to stop and tell you the things this reframe does not prove, because a story is only as trustworthy as the parts it's willing to keep off the scoreboard. This does not prove that Paul Annacone thinks Alex Eala is going to win a Grand Slam. He did not say that. What he said precisely was that she wants to get better than where she is now, which is a forward-looking observation, not a prediction. Do not let anybody upgrade that quote into an anointing. It wasn't one. This also does not prove that Annacone sat down that day intending to make a statement about her. He didn't. He was previewing Indian Wells. She was a talking point, and he answered thoughtfully. The interpretive weight I've placed on the segment, the reading that his vocabulary was a diagnosis rather than a compliment, is a reading. It's grounded in what he said and what he spent his career doing, but it's a reading. The most honest version of this story is that a very qualified man watched Alex Eala play, chose his words carefully on live television, and turned out to be right about her. That's already a lot. It doesn't need to be more than that to matter. And one more piece of honesty. 2 days ago, Alex Eala lost in the second round of the Cincinnati Open to Amanda Anisimova, the current world number 10. After leading the match, she won the first set 4-6. She lost the first set 4-6, took the second 6-4, and lost the third. It is her first tournament as a top 20 player, and she went out in the second round. That is a real result. It sits inside the same story as the DC title. The player who can compress time against Pegula on Sunday can still lose a close third set to Anisimova on Tuesday. Both are true. The trajectory Annacone flagged is real. It is not linear. It never is. Here is what I think we're actually looking at. In the first week of March, on a rainy day in Miami, on a preview show that most tennis fans did not stop to rewatch, Paul Annacone said Alex Eala's name into a microphone and used the specific technical vocabulary he had once used inside Pete Sampras's and Roger Federer's boxes to describe what she does with a tennis ball. He did it without fanfare. He did it in the same 45 seconds where he also praised her manners and flagged her commercial appeal, because he is a man who has watched a lot of promising 21-year-olds either become great or not. And he knows that becoming great is a technical problem, a temperamental problem, and a business problem all at once. And he named all three on air before most of the world knew they were watching a top 20 player. 5 months later, she is a top 20 player. She has beaten the world number 3 in a final. She has done it in the exact way he said she could. The room where Paul Annacone names you unprompted in the vocabulary he used to coach Grand Slam champions is not a room a number 32 player is usually invited into. That she was invited into it, and that she has since spent